remember that. He laughs at me because I've got sweat running down my face, and he's got a jacket on and a blanket on.
Yes.
Can you believe that?
Honey, I get it. Believe me, I understand. One time I was at the office.
Hello.
Adjusting the thermostat, and my boss looked at me and I said, I don't want to hear a word, I'm Neil Marshall. He goes, oh yeah, I got one of those at
Ring the bell. It would have been so neat. Welcome, sweetheart. If I had to win a lot, that's what I said. How are you? You do too. How are you?
I'm fine. This is costume that I have.
You can't put this on.
Oh, thank you. So do you. You look elegant. Oh my.
So glad you found it. There's several men around.
I guess it's like
You would appreciate it. Enjoy yourself. Yeah, I think that too. Everything.
Yeah. I couldn't miss this, and I told my husband to get his credit. He's going to.
Hi, Jerry. How are you? Good. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
See, this one's my seat, dear.
Back, John's back there.
That's your seat.
Where do we start?
Wherever you want to. Start anywhere.
Rhonda knows I can't stand for long.
Somebody take this and it was in here and we don't know. And if you have questions, when everybody comes to that lady back there, she knows. So far, no.
Yes. He's at the back.
And Carlene has brought along.
I need you all to sign in.
Oh, okay.
He's at the very back, baby. I'm Pam. If you have any questions.
Do I know you? Yeah. John Pelham. Alvin Duty. Yeah. My goodness. Alvin.
It's kind of been a
I
while.
didn't recognize you.
I walked right by you.
Well,
Good to see you.
good to see you. Is Tony coming?
Well, they might be here.
I walked in.
He had to go to Waco with HEB to pick up ear. He got ear infection.
Okay. Alvin, this is my wife, Rita.
Young lady.
Alvin, Rita.
Hi, it's nice
We were
to
in
meet
school
you.
together.
I've heard your name before.
One another good, but
Oh, it was good, yeah.
Tony is his better son.
So this is what it is.
I tried to raise it right.
Exactly.
You did. You did.
I've been confused really long with my dad. He said, yeah, my dad turned nobody down. He had to, basically make it raise 4 kids, make these parents.
That's the way it should be.
And I never heard that talking about this beat out to get up. I'm 45 years old neighbor, so
It's the Texas Ethics Commission.
yeah.
This is kind of our women's section. Yeah, we started this with women's.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and we've got so many donations.
Oh,
It's really worked out for our dresses, all kinds of stuff. It goes all the way around this area, this whole thing.
I think it's beautiful. Are you taking pictures?
We are actually streaming this.
Ooh.
We set up a page for the Carver Homestead, so we're streaming it to the Carver Homestead's
Oh,
page.
that's wonderful. Look at the waist on this. My left thigh is that big. Look at that. I'm telling you. They were teeny tiny. And
Right.
beautiful. Beautiful. Oh, look at all of these. Wow.
Hi, Cheryl. How are you?
Yeah, I want to get this together.
Well, make the
I told you anything.
He died.
Jean's still living.
She's 90.
I am. I didn't realize that. Why am I smart? Everybody's taller than
That's Peggy. She said she can't wear it anymore. So I said, well, bring it here. These are mine. I just said, oh, no. I said, don't give it. Put them in
They're my own personal pictures. I just wanted to let you know.
Something else.
She died.
Whatever it is.
I don't know.
Well, you know, my daddy, he
Really change.
Look at the trunk.
he 92 12 January, and I'm very
Strong like you missed this one too.
well, I tell you, I don't know if the county registration was. But, you know, that won't people work like that, you I double roll cultivator. But, you know, it's funny.
I moved your drink. That's not my.
Well, it shouldn't have come this street.
I meant this, and I told the son about it. I got along good, but Daddy and I had an argument. I guess I'm not saying it. I don't know what it was. And I don't want that. We sat in the middle backyard, and I believe I'll leave. And then, son, 18 years old, that road. You think you gotta leave? I may not be able to stop you, but I don't want to tell you something.
He's been running, but he takes
That
up.
gate out there.
I'm sweating.
Yeah.
Daddy gave me one look at what kind of stuff. He had a hand picking cotton. I ain't no telling how many hands he had picking cotton. And that's back when they started pulling, you know. I wasn't even school yet. I was born in 36.
I put it on 75.
And
It's
little
too
black
hot
boy-
in here.
Well, then back it up.
I can't bear it out. I had put it on 72.
Yeah, let me put it up to 70.
It's hot in here. And the door's gonna be open and closing. I don't know.
Did
I
I?
probably did that.
So it's going to be.
Oh, I did do that.
And that'll
I,
I think that'll just,
Yeah.
it should, if it's anything like mine at
Oh,
home,
Daddy always.
it should just go back to the regular screen.
I got smart. I figured out the seed come out.
I'm in that picture.
You are. So Pam is in this picture. Say hi. You look great, Pam. Don't you worry about that.
I am, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I am 1, 2, 3. I'm right there.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
You're live streaming this, aren't you?
I am.
You are.
We went ahead and created a Carver Homestead Facebook page. So this is streaming as a Carver Homestead.
Oh, this is mine. This is mine. Oh, okay. Oh, it's. I guess it's
Beauty breast patches.
Oh, how about that?
What's on that, Tim?
Beauty rest patches. Well, okay.
Yeah. Where you that at?
But I'm gonna make sure. Yeah. Can you see anything? Oh.
They wound up with, I think we went to a sales meeting.
Oh, here? No, I was with you. Yeah.
Today will be a good enough.
Yes, it is.
I don't have all my hair.
Well, rearrange what you got, that's for sure.
She's live streaming.
Somebody's donated, I don't know.
There's so much goes
What
on
was
around
your
here.
roommate name up there at the car?
Live streaming.
Well, I had a couple of them.
Why did y'all have to take the same classes?
I don't remember where this came from, but me and Pam put the cord off of it and put a candle in it and it didn't work. Well, we had cleaned it. It was all clean.
Yeah, it was all clean. I was just. Oh my God. Are you having fun? There's so much stuff here, you just can't get it all.
Right?
Love it. I've got one at home that's not allowed to break it. That is, it's a type of cold puncher. See these? There's the key I think to it. It says pay. They can slip something in there and press it down. Like a stamp. Well, maybe not.
I was up at grandparents' barn, and they got one.
Tell me you need it. All this came from the bank.
We couldn't figure out what it was.
I just love it. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Tell them what it is.
Yes. Welcome. We're happy you're here.
So now come on.
I'll show her. No, she's going to not.
I'm tired of being broke.
Now,
Looks like me doing that. I had another question for you, Rhonda, and I can't think of it. Isn't that sad? 5 years I can't remember what I said.
Been spending your life climbing up the ladder of success,
No.
reaching the top, only
Just
to
don't.
discover
Oh, do you want change, baby? No, I want you to. I'll make sure it's safe. Okay. I am doing that because you're right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. I've lived here since '72, so I can't. Have you really? So you're a Whitney,
What's your name?
Eddie McKister. Nice to meet you. This is just too ill. We've lived here since '05. And when I moved down here from the grapevine, I was like, oh my God, where am I going to go shopping? Oh, the area. Amazon looks great. It is. And then at rush hour, if there's more than 5 cars, I get a little rowdy. Is that silly? Oh, yeah, but that's okay. Well, you all have a great trip around here. You park right there. That's fine because the bank's closed.
Oh, yeah, it's closed,
Oh, walk around about 20 times and you'll see something different every time. I know, huh? And thank you for signing here without me telling you to. I don't remember where Joe's at. Oh. I'm 76. Is that the Hillsborough courthouse?
Yes.
I've got a picture of it burned down. Oh, she's even over there.
Did you really?
Yeah. Okay, I'm the baby of the place.
She's the baby. She's going to be 70. I said she's got.
You know, and I have no problem telling my age. Because if
You know, I don't either. At least I can tell it.
At least you're still alive. That's how I look at it.
Oh, really? So that's how you know her. Did you know her?
Okay, we have used it for
Years. Okay.
I think I know.
Or Rhonda Smith. No. Oh, okay. She was here.
Oh, we were at
Okay. You all have a good day.
I knew you lived in
I was 3 or 4 now.
I graduated in '68.
I don't think I could go through school again, to be honest with you. I may have. That's my husband. We finished.
Yeah, John Pelham back there, and he was talking about.
And we went to a man's
Center point about how.
okay.
It's gone. He's so upstairs. We wouldn't call him a month later. He had zero.
And they had to take a
He
box
had
and track
3
it to the
storage
roof
units.
to let it put it down until.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
We can tell a couple of stories.
That's okay.
There's so much to see.
Yeah, Lord, yeah.
I wanted more. I
And there was real fence.
Are you at what time, Whitney?
Born and raised.
See, this is what happens.
I was born right down there.
Yeah, me too. My sister. Yeah. Remember those pancakes from Mary Ward. Dr. Louis, Dr. Yeah, that's Angela removed by the tree. These two ladies are nurses. They work. I used to be
I love these people coming in.
Man, bird down, eat with that porch.
I have a tendency to do Don't any of those run? Well, run. Well, no, that doesn't work up there. You need to look at those. 11:21.
And that Friday I had in the car. Venezuela people. Yes. Last time I checked out, a bunch of them out there. About 12 o'clock, she come out and shop. Hands on, go, y'all. I got hands on. All of you. And he said she rather have great fried chicken, green gravy vegetables, iced tea. And I said, that's the way Mother things are. But anyway, I was December, and I was born, I was 6 December born. This is March 8th, get afraid. George told me one day, and one minute, he never drives there, said, oh, said anything. I'm going to go do that, no, you say no. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi, young lady.
Thank you very much for saying, young
Well,
lady.
you a lot younger than I am.
Oh, I don't know. I'll be 76 this month.
Well, I got you beat 10 years. I'm 86.
Oh, I get it.
That's the fella right there who went to school up in Charleston in 56.
56.
That's where I met him, in Charlton.
You went to school there?
At Charlton.
Oh, Carl,
You lived in the girls' arms?
I did.
What was your...
My roommate was from Japan, Kansas, and was Arnold.
So is it Tarleton State University?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking- Oh, yeah.
It was just like a big high school back then.
Yeah.
Everybody knew everybody.
Oh, yeah. And you walk through a cafe here and you used to see them shake hands.
Yeah, isn't that
People
nice?
now don't look at you like you
Yeah. I don't know. Some of the smaller schools got like Tarleton State, Tarleton State just talking about. And I graduated from Texas, then it was Texas A&I.
Oh, yes.
Now it's Texas
Well,
A&I.
I can tell you, my son, other school, he goes in there wide. I retired over 30 years working with our Thank you. But anyway, he went in and transferred off here. And finally got his bachelor's degree. And I said, now he started working on his matter. Well, I think with that thing, I can look at it both mortgage and rank and sell all the cattle, get education. So I didn't have to mortgage and rank and sell all the cattle. Everything trying to do what we got to. And then I said, I'm ready to go if everybody's ready to listen. Now he's
The one that's going to be
he's teaching right here in Denton right now. Yes, ma'am.
Now, what group is this?
Yeah.
I was on St. Baptist. Okay, guys, we have a famous portrait person with us.
You have a wonderful day.
And he's ready to get something listen to. And at 12, I'm going to sit there. You're on
Got it.
Presenting it to Miss Ron.
Okay.
John's going to start.
When you say poem, when you say poetry, everybody runs for the door.
Not your poetry. Because his poetry rhymes.
Well, there are a few chairs up here if you want to come up and sit down.
Yeah, there are.
And we can get some more.
Yeah. Might as well. And here's a place.
Here's another one. More back here.
I wish I had donated mine. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
And I'm too on run, can't fight.
I gave it away.
Here you go.
So I gotta behave.
Yeah, you got, there you go. That's good.
Yeah, I'll be 87 next birthday.
Well,
How are you?
great.
I'm married. Pull up a chair, young lady.
Charles. Yeah, sit that chair would be extra.
Come on, I'll let you sit by me if you rise.
Mind if I sit right here?
Come have right on, young lady.
Oh, right.
Now, that's why she said that. Look out.
Now, y'all don't have to sit down if you don't want to. And if you don't like what he's saying, there's the back door.
He might trip me on the way out, though.
Yeah, you might not get out.
3 days, the 21st of January.
Well,
I'll be ready.
my name's John Pelham. When I lived in Whitney, I was known as John T. Pelham. I grew up out here on a little stock farm out in the Tarver community. Now, I don't know, are some of you natives of Whitney? You know about the Tarver community? You know?
The old schoolhouse up there on the hill.
Well, it was a hay barn when I was there. The Arnolds lived in it for a while, and then it became a hay barn. Well, if you know where the Tarver Schoolhouse was, when you get to the Tarver Schoolhouse, you turn down a little 2-lane dirt road, and our house was about a quarter of a mile down there, and our farm was bisected by the Katy Railroad track. We had about a half-hour place on one side of the road, the railroad in one, and the rest of it on the other side. And and I graduated from Whitney High School in 1956. And,
Which building was it?
huh?
Which building was it?
Oh, it was the old building.
The old
Yeah.
building. Okay.
In fact, some of you may have heard the story about the old gym that burned.
Yes.
Well, they put that gym in. We started the school, and they had, I think, 2 classes, 2 grades. And my grade, I think I was 5th or 6th grade. And it burned that night. We started the school, and it burned that night. And we spent that year going to school in the First Baptist Church. And then bus us back to this campus for lunch, and then bus us back to the school, back to the church. So that was a fun year.
There's a chair.
So you must have went to school with
Sit down.
my uncles, Betty Joe and Joe Ed. And
They were ahead
Jerry.
of me. Jerry was my
your age.
Jerry was my class. Yeah. Jerry Ward was in my class.
That was my history teacher.
That was my history teacher.
Well, he was my fullback.
And he was the football coach.
and my squirrel hunting buddy. And
That was
Jerry's not in very good shape.
He's in a wheelchair.
He's had a lot of trouble. So these are, I started writing a few poems when I was working. I spent all my career in extension work. I started out as a 4-H agent and ended up my career at the University of Missouri in Extension, University of Missouri Extension. And I would write a poem every once in a while for somebody's birthday or when somebody retired, but I never had written anything what I'd call serious poetry. And when I retired, we came back to Granbury, and I wanted to go see the National Cowboy Poetry Gathering in Elko, Nevada. And we flummoxed one of our couple friends, and we went to Elko, Nevada, and I went to the National Cowboy Poetry Gathering, and I started writing poetry. And I've written 8 books of poetry, and a lot that have never been published, and I just it just kind of got out of hand. I just wrote, I wrote too much, and I started losing a lot of friends. But anyway, in preparation for this, I went back through and I pulled 20 or 21 poems that I had written. Some of my earliest poetry was about growing up in Whitney. And I don't do this poem very often, but I'm going to do it this morning. It's about growing up on the farm out in the Tarver community. It's called When Mama and Daddy Sold the Farm. And I'll try to make it through the whole way. As I look back on those years on the family farm, my feelings now seem to be just as warm as they were in those halcyon days of my boyhood, when life didn't seem quite so good. And they seem to be from this advanced perspective, but they provide the experiences for being reflective. Well, this is the 3rd iteration of this, my first serious ode. It's as important to me as when I initially wrote about the days that fashioned my later life, when later in college a true farm girl became my wife. When after college I became a proud 4-H agent and served the kind of folks with whom my life had been spent. So it's been a joy to reflect back on those days so warm, when me, Mama, and Daddy lived life on the farm. Now, if you're like me, you can recall where you spent your childhood, when everything looked and sounded and tasted real good. For me, that was the Tarver community, not too far from the little town of Whitney. We kept a few of every species, cows, hogs, chickens, and goats, planted a little corn and a lot of oats. But I'll tell you, I've never been as blue and plumb low down as when Mama and Daddy sold out and moved to town. When we first moved to the farm, we didn't know what we'd face. There was an outdoor toilet, and the only heat was a double fireplace. Now, there may be some that don't know what a double fireplace is, I reckon. It's one that sits between 2 rooms and puts out a fire in both directions. Daddy had the REA run a line down to mile and a quarter so we could have lights, a pump, and some running water. We dug tanks, built a bathroom, barns that were dry and warm, but that was several years before Mama and Daddy sold the farm. When you're young in the country, all spry and full of pep, you never seem to notice that you might be a little out of step with the rest of the world and all its citified notions. Well, I can remember going to Fort Worth and causing quite a commotion with stock loaded to the top of the boards. Off to town I'd go in that old row binder, International pickup, all yeller as a pumpkin, all them city slickers looking at me like I'm some kind of bumpkin. But those folks in town never had the grace and charm that we had before Mama and Daddy sold the farm. Well, I can remember when kids from town wanted to come out to my house and run around and scream and shout. See, we could do whatever we wanted way out there. Wasn't nobody to hear us except the animals, and they sure didn't care. We could do most anything as long as we didn't get caught smoking cedar bark, walking the rails, and doing things we hadn't ought. Of course, we didn't think we was doing anybody any harm, We had a lot of fun those days before Mama and Daddy sold the farm. I'll write one verse about it, each about my mom and dad. Since they're both gone, more than that'll make me too sad. My dad was about the hardest working so-and-so I ever knew. He worked hard and expected everybody around him to work like a dog too. I've always said this about him and his love of the land. He managed a lumber yard in town so he could call himself a farmer man. The tales I could tell about him would fill a book, but the one about buying our bull on a Sunday gives a pretty good look. Now, doing stuff like that on the Sabbath just wasn't something to be done. But we did one Sunday morning and brought him home. The next morning we got up to look at our red and white bounty, but that varmint wasn't anywhere to be found in all of Hill County. I've got another poem about that. Daddy even asked a fortune teller whose words brought even more alarm. Bet he never did that again before Mama and Daddy sold the farm. My mother, it's safe to say, has been said, and that was a real strength of our family, but don't tell my dad. Whoop. On top of all the work she did around the house, around the home place, she kept the yard books and welcomed everyone with a smiling face. As I said before, if you worked for my dad, you worked real hard. Whether it was home or on the farm or in the lumber yard, that was true for all of us, Mother included too. Daddy was always coming up with something for us to do, painting kerosene on mesquites to kill them in the heat, handling peanuts 7 times so they could make sheep feed cheap. She never complained and maintained her unique charm all the way through till the day Mama and Daddy sold the farm. When I look back on those carefree days, I get nostalgic for the good old country ways of doing for ourselves and for others around and helping our neighbors when their times were down. Like when the weather was ugly and the storms were bad, they'd come to our house because the cellar was about the only thing we unknown to be had. And if our cow was fresh and theirs was dry, they'd borrow from us to drink and make their pie. And you can bet when the shoe was on the other foot, we'd be at their house with our hands out and they'd follow suit. Times, though, have changed and life has lost a bit of its charm since the days before Mama and Daddy sold the farm. I've got lots of memories, some good and a few bad, of the life on the farm and the times we had. My cousin Robert and I rode the range far and wide on Cricket and Oscar and several other old hides. They were like Kentucky Derby winners to us, though, because they got us in style where we wanted to go. If we'd been in Montana or somewhere out west, we couldn't have been happier because we had the best. That's the way things were looking back through the warm rays of memory before Mama and Daddy sold the farm. Well, I went back to the farm here a while ago to see again the home I used to know. Wasn't the same. Trees weren't as big and the grass was as green as I'd remember them being. But the house was there and the barns we'd built and the mesquites and the cactus we didn't quite get killed. The tanks we'd dug and the trees where I'd played were still there along with the water lines we'd laid. The memories were sharp and the feelings were warm of the place we lived till Mama and Daddy sold the farm. Again, I went to see the place once more, not knowing what I'd see, but pretty sure it wouldn't be like I'd remembered it being, but certainly wasn't ready for the sight I was seeing. I looked for the barns, all gone, not a board or nail in sight. Even the tank we had dug, filled in, covered with brush. All the things we had built, all gone. My heart was crushed. But as I looked further, I realized they hadn't eliminated everything. There's the old cellar where we spent so many nights of spring. Needless to say, I won't go back. I'll just have to remember the charm of how it all looked before Mom and Daddy sold it.
That's all right, Doc.
I don't ever do that anywhere. I thought I'd do it here.
Appreciate it.
CJ.
Beautiful.
It is.
Funny. Some of it is kind of funny.
have tears in
Yeah. Some of you may remember, and I don't know if it was the first, or it was the First National Bank or the Whitney National Bank.
CJ.
But the bank was just down from Cato's drugstore, just up to
First National.
First National.
Right there by the alley.
Yeah, right there by the alley.
Seems like I remember back there.
Well, you might remember this. Mr. Winkleman's desk.
Winkleman, yep.
This was the original Mr. Winkleman. I'm sure it wasn't as big as I thought way back then, but it seemed as big as a room and high as my little chin. I was a high school freshman trying to buy a show steer. Mr. Winkleman, the banker, asked, "Why are you here?" "Well," said I need a loan to buy a steer and feed him. It'll be my FFA project, and I really, really need him. His first question, I'm sure, was, "How much should the loan be for?" I didn't know what to say, so I said, "Oh, maybe about $100, maybe more." Remember, I was 14 years old, and I had never borrowed any money before. And here in the First National Bank, I didn't know what I had in store. To be completely honest, Mr. Winkleman scared me. He seemed to be as big as his desk, and I thought as mean as he could be. Now I know now he really wasn't, but I didn't know it back in the day. I just knew I needed his money, and all I needed to hear him say was, "Sure, John, I'll make you a loan. Just sign on the bottom line. Pay me back when you want to. You got plenty of time." Obviously, that's not what he said. It was a lot more business-like. He talked about payment schedules and something about interest hikes. I didn't understand any of it. I just needed to hear him say, "You got the loan, now go get that steer today." I did, and that started something that lasted my high school career. Eventually, I owned several head of cattle, some sheep, and several more steers. As I think about Mr. Winkleman's desk, I learned a lot about life that day. About paying your debts when they're due. Lessons about responsibility, respect, honor, and fair play. About giving and keeping your word. About time and money management. About paying your debts when due and living up to your commitments. The loan itself, insignificant in size, but monumental in its scope. It gave a young country boy pride, economic independence, and hope. Now I know my dad had probably cleared it with Mr. Winkleman before ahead of that test. They began an important education that day as I faced Mr. Winkleman's desk.
Wow.
I met Jody Cross wasn't very far off. Jody Cross, I bet, wasn't very far off.
Yeah, Jody Cross was there. Where'd you get your love of poetry? Somebody asked me the other day. As I thought about it a little while, there's only one thing to say. I'm not too sure, but I got a feeling it started a long time ago. Probably in Mrs. Epps' English class, studying Chaucer, Longfellow, and Poe. As I further thought about it those days, those classes seemed never to end. Memorizing poems, reciting them out loud, Ms. Epps reminding us, poetry is your friend. As I've gotten older, my eyes weaken, my memory, once good, now pales. But I know as long as I live, I'll always remember the prologue to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. One that a pretty with its shorter sota, the drought of March, and pierced to the rota, and bathed every vein in switch liqueur, of which engendered is the fluor. On and on it went, splendid old English. We reciting in Texas English so clipped. Looking back, I'm pretty sure old Jeff must have been rolling over in his Westminster crypt. Memorization and recitation wasn't the only odoriferous experience we had in English too. We also had to pen our own original odic lines. Minimum of 8 lines, 2 verses, recited on the date cue. We racked our brains, we searched high and low for all we had for rhyming words and phrases that would satisfy, even edify Ms. Epps and just maybe pass and win her praises. My day came up, and to the front I went, poem in hand, full of angst and dread. Nervously, I hitched up my breeches, I looked at my shoes, cleared my throat, looked right at Ms. Epps and said, greed. Greed is an enemy that's eternal. You find it wherever you may. You find it in the big cities, in the people you see each day. You find it in the big cities and in the small villages too. And if you don't watch what you're doing, it'll be right here in you. Class didn't erupt in laughter, nor did they burst out in derision. I watched Ms. Epps for her response, anxiously awaiting her critical decision. Honestly, I don't remember what she said, and I don't remember the grade she gave, but I only remember it being hooked on that stuff, a form of expression I'd take to my grave. She must have liked my poem, I guess, because she sent mine and a few others off someplace. They ended up getting printed in a little book. It was bound in red and had Young America Sings across its face. Wasn't much of a book, just something that parents wanted to buy. But it made me feel 10 feet tall and gave me incentive to try my hand at writing more poetry, finding new ways to make lines rhyme. Now in retirement, it's something to do to fill my time. Ms. Epps is gone now, so are the days when we rhyme merely for the score. But she started something that's outlived those exercises I dreaded so much as a high school sophomore. I can remember Ms. Epps. I don't know whether she was still here. I thought she was really old then, but I have the red book that had the Young America Sings. My mother bought it, of course. I have it at home. And I also have a book of poetry that Ms. Epps wrote. And I don't know who published it, but I've got a book of her poetry. Now, her poetry doesn't rhyme. Her poetry is, and I've got a little bias against unrhyming poetry, but I've got it. Now, I've checked with the local law enforcement officers, and I'm pretty sure that the statute of limitations has passed. So I'm going to do this poem, and are there any law enforcement people in the room?
The mayor won't tell.
He's retired from law enforcement. 1996.
Don't breathe a word. It's, the title of it is Stealing Watermelons. All this is something that I heard. I never participated. They just told me about it.
Hearsay.
They say that confessions are good in most all situations, so hopefully my transgressions have outlived the statute of limitations. So here comes the terrible truth. I once I'm just implicating myself. I once was involved in nabbing melons. Now, not recently, but back in my youth, you might call us juvenile felons. We could blame it all on Mr. Clark, not his real name. The road ran right by his melon field. It made what might be called an easy mark because he always had a magnificent yield. It was really such a long time ago, and I hadn't really thought much of it since. But we loved his watermelon so, and all we had to do was crawl through the fence. That fence, barbed wire, 3 strands, mostly rusty, not pulled very tight. Go through, watch your hands, get up, get out, take your flight. Go back to town, behind his made-up name, Fisher's Store. Bust one open, go for the heart. No need to conserve, there's always more. That was always the best part. Careful, the night watchman might be around. He wasn't too sharp, but ever vigilant. He couldn't afford more law in our town, and he did the best and was pretty diligent about finding and catching us ne'er-do-wells. We were canning and never got caught. Lots of folks knew, but never would tell, even though by right they probably ought. I'm guessing Mr. Clark knew full well who was pilfering from his melon patch. If he did, he never did tell. The ones who had loved to make the catch. Back then, we did things we shouldn't have, but we didn't mean to do any harm. Ever since, though, no melon I ever bought tasted as good as those from Mr. Clark's farm.
John, that remind me when I was a kid. If older couple bought a farm, that farm over across the road from us, and I helped old Jim. 8th, 9th grade. Helped him plant watermelon.
Yeah.
I drove a tractor for him, you know, and we got through planting watermelon one day, and he said, Alvin, if they make anything, you can have all you want. So that melons were getting ripe. I was in a falling, somebody said, pickup comes pull the trailer loaded. Well, I said, I know where we can get some. And wait till it get dark. Went over there and crossed through the barbed wire fence, got 3 or 4 melons, come back to 8 falling there on the corner and cut them. And that reminded me, you know, I never did tell him that.
I won't ask for a show of hands, but I suspect there's been other people, maybe even in this room, who's done that.
There might have been one time that I might have, it wasn't watermelons, it was Kerbo's peanuts.
Kerbo's peanuts.
Yeah.
Well, I'm real suspicious.
You know when you had them in the dryers?
Yeah.
You stick your hand in there and you can get you a hand of peanuts. And they're pretty good.
I'm real suspicious of this story because my great-grandfather was Mr. Clark.
Did you have a watermelon patch?
Yeah, I did.
Busted!
We're gonna let John take a little break, and the mayor has something for Rhonda.
Oh yeah.
Let's Mayor Terry Martha Rhonda back.
Come forward. This is the City of Whitney proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, City of Whitney. Whereas the Whitney Area Museum is located in the old post office building on 303 North Brazos Street. And whereas the Whitney Area Museum proudly features items of importance in the area of local history. And whereas the respect and honor of the John C. Conley family, got it spelled right, for allowing the Whitney Area Museum to utilize the building. And whereas on July 26, 1993, the Conley family deeded the building to the Whitney Area Museum. And whereas with appreciation for and in recognition of those who have worked so hard in connection with the museum to keep the history of Whitney alive. Now therefore, I, Jerry Barker, Mayor of the City of Whitney, do hereby declare a day of celebration and recognition of the Whitney Area Museum, and therefore proclaim Saturday, March the 11th, 2023 is the Whitney Area Museum Day.
What an honor.
And I can tell you, we moved here in 1964, and I can tell you there is so much. I was over at the annuals a while ago, and I was looking at all the different annuals. I just want you to know that there was one thing that I got every year for 4 years I was in high school, and it was teacher's pet. You know, they do all these things, little designations, and you're going up. And when I went to 6th grade, I had Miss Baker, and in her class, that was pretty much the end of the old school building, and there was a big hole going up into the auditorium in Miss Baker's class. And so all of us kids, the first day of school, Miss Baker, what's that? She said, don't worry about it. I'm like, so finally I asked another teacher, she said, yeah, that's the auditorium up there. And I said, well, can I go up there? She said, no, they'd already condemned that up there. This was in, I was in 6th grade, so I guess it would have probably been, when did we build that new school? It was in the early, we moved to 64, so
about 1970.
The old high school, yeah. It would have been 70, I think, no, 74 I was almost graduated.
No, we
probably like 68.
No, it wasn't 68.
We graduated.
It was
70, probably 70.
We graduated 71 out of the armory while they were building.
Yeah. And then they, after they started, we had all those portable buildings too for a while. And I don't think they got rid of those. I think there still might be some out there.
Yeah, there's still some of it.
It's amazing what could be put on the top of that school building.
Well, I tell you,
Tile on flagpole.
I love Whitney so much. I mean, I went to the police academy after I got out and graduated from Whitney High School, and so where did I come? I come to Whitney. In 1975, I got a picture of me driving. Remember the old 73 LTDs, the Fords? I got a picture of me going right in front of the bank, the old bank. And so I love this town, and that's the reason why I do what I do. I've got a servant's heart, and I want to do whatever we can to build our city up. And so, I shouldn't be a campaign speech, but it's just something from my heart. Y'all, you've already energized me more just sitting here and listening to these stories, because this is our history. Even though I was late getting here in '64, and we owned a farm out there on the road that goes out where you turn to the high school and you go all the way down. We lived next to David Peters had built a house, or Ed Peters, and then Winnell and Miller built another house. And so me and Kay, we grew up on the farm together. So
that was the road out from Cooper's.
Yeah, and there was
gravel then.
We lived, I called it the 7-Eleven house. My daddy was in construction, and he had a bunch of material left over, so when we moved to Whitney in '64, he built all the brick on the ends and all the windows on the front and the back. So I called it the 7-Eleven house.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'll do one more, and I'll do as many as anybody will sit and listen to me, but...
How many remember where the post office was before it was here?
I don't.
How many remember what?
Where the post office was before it was here.
There's a picture up there that I found.
Yeah.
Up there by the
Best
post
I
office.
remember, it was down there where the police station is.
And there, at one time, there was one across from the alley that they did down there that has all the garden in it. It was right across the street. So there's a picture right up there. And that sign the man had brought in here is hanging on it. So maybe it was just temporary. I don't know. But I was just excited that I found that sign that man had brought in.
I barely remember one time my grandma going in there and buying postage stamps. I might have been 5, 6 years old.
I'll show you that picture in a minute. Whenever you get ready.
Are you trying to get out?
And I had to literally go downtown with the picture of gallery and stand there, look at it to see which building it was. And I believe it's right in that area where that man is living downtown, right across from the Lakelander paper. It's on that side.
Remember Miss
I tell you, I want
Faulkner's
this little hamburger.
dress shop?
Oh, yeah. Cute.
I got here when Marie Hill still had her little shop.
I like the purple one.
Right there by the
Isn't that cute?
cinches. She had a dress shop there.
Yeah, Cheryl's got a
Yeah.
EAR.
Vanessa Faulkner, she came in and brought a bunch of stuff in, and I kind
Oh,
of
God.
I put it together for her. It's over on that wall near the town, and it tells a lot about the Faulkners, about what they did, the hotel, all that kind of stuff.
John, I bet you this gentleman right back here could tell us about the post office.
Oh, okay.
Carthel, come back here. We need to ask you a question.
I think so, he could tell us.
There's somebody here older than I am.
Oh my gosh.
We have a question for Carthel.
Okay.
I gotta go hug you.
Hey, Barry, how you doing?
Yeah, you hug too. I miss you guys so much. Hey, get out of the way.
He can. I know he can.
I get to see everybody.
Nobody else could in here. I looked back there and saw him. I said, well, he can answer.
Take time. You mean a whole lot.
I know. Well, I was in sixth grade. We had moved way out of the country.
Who's this guy sitting down there?
We don't know. How you doing?
You're planning to sit there? Okay.
Yep.
Carthel,
They pay me to sit
we got a question for you.
I probably can't answer it.
We want to know, where was the post office in Whitney before it was here? Do you know?
Sure, I know.
I knew you would.
So I know down here, and of course, my mother stayed there.
You remember that?
John was asking.
You've been in Whitney long.
I was born here.
You know that.
Anyway,
I'm Bobby Smith's daughter, Grady Waite's his granddaughter.
payment on that land.
There's two filling stations down there.
18 years old.
Yeah.
Remember them? One was Charles,
Yeah,
and the other was Charlie Murray.
yeah.
Then the post office was right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before it
John, he knows where it was.
Yeah, he knows everything.
I know.
How are you?
I wouldn't recognize you the whole time.
I don't recognize you. You still look like a fullback. Well, I was going to do the Battle of the Benches.
Okay. We're going to do the Battle of the Benches, guys. Let me go and tell you. How are you?
You look pretty.
Thank you. So glad to see you.
Papa done whooped me one time too many for nothing, just because he gets drunk and mad. I know young lady.
How are you?
Yeah, back before
Now, what is your name?
Carthel, it was John and Rose Hardy.
Yeah.
I'm Brenda Pelham.
There's a lot of dudes around this area.
I'm Joyce Marsh. Which one?
Made up for you.
I'm Joyce Marsh. Joyce Marsh.
I will.
My husband used to be a postmaster.
There you are. Come help you get up, right?
There you go. You're welcome. Thank you.
He retired in 2020.
I'm retired. Well, I work like a pension woman. That's all I do. And after I went to school, that's something wrong. Graduated 58. that's a long story, but anyway. I come I get up and I finish and I get hard being broke. So I come home and get on the truck, and that.
Were you gonna sit there?
Oh, and I thought I was loved.
And you?
And
Oh, yes, ma'am.
lo and behold, I should save up my money and about once a month I drive down to see her. And maybe I got a dear John letter from her. I thought it was good here, but you know the best thing can happen. Anyway, check it, see if it works.
It worked. Y'all took a beautiful picture.
But anyway, the land
Well, then, she needs to sit in that chair. Well, I guess not.
So, and Daddy was like, I was kind of like John. Dad never did settle. He off his way more than the land was worth.
Y'all want to sit down?
50, 60. Dad said it's not for sale.
How are you? Pretty good.
So the girl I married, I met her.
Well, it's not exactly an accident that I'm here in front of this Battle of the Benches. Many of you remember the story about the Battle of the Benches. A tale, sad, but all too true, of injustices against a group of men who, peaceful by their nature, were publicly convicted of a terrible sin. What was that, you might ask? Did they murder, maim, or rob, rustle, steal, falsely accuse, steal materials while on their job? No, nothing so dark and sinister nor law-breaking as any of that. Nay, they were merely spitting and whittling whilst on their favorite bench they sat. This true story goes back a ways, so bear with me for a spell. The facts are plainly spelled out as the sordid story they tell. It was in Whitney in 1922. The local druggist did what he thought a favor. For the elder gentleman passing by, provided a bench on which they could savor and while away their daily time by discussing, whittling, and yes, spitting, not thinking anybody's sensibilities were hurt while on this nice log bench they were sitting. For 27 years they peacefully sat. Not once anyone seemed to care. Their bucolic existence all changed in 1949 when some outraged women said, "Don't you dare sit here every day on that bench, spitting tobacco juice and cussing." They filed a petition to the mayor begging for change and, yes, fussing for the mayor to remove the bench and deprive the elderly men their forum. The benches, said the nice ladies, lacked civility, a sense of decorum. So the police chief was mandated by the mayor to remove the benches to a nearby alley where the men could resume to their heart's content, but the men resisted. They started to rally. In the absence of the benches, the men revolted. In their stead, they brought in nail kegs on which to sit. Set them where the log bench had been, thereby providing a place to whittle and spit. That cannot stand, the mayor said. Remove the nail kegs. The law will stand. Mistakenly thinking by this official mandate that the situation was now well in hand. He and the ladies obviously underestimated the tenacity and steadfastness of the men. Their civil rights had been trampled on, and they were determined to win. A petition was circulated. Sufficient people signed, thereby setting up a citywide special vote If the old men won, the bench would return. If not, it'd be up that creek without a boat. The campaign raged, not for too long. Mr. Dibble of Portland, Oregon, came up with a campaign song. That old cedar bench. 3 cheers for the Whitney grandpas and their right to sit and whittle. For who are we to tell them where they should aim their spittle? For only the body is weary. Listen, say, Ma, what's in the kettle? For didn't they found your city, bounce most of you on their knees? But now in their early winter you turn deaf ears to their pleas. And how would you do without them on the bench beneath those sweet gum trees? Oh, we'll cherish that old cedar bench in the shade of those sweet gum trees, and maybe a game of horseshoes or mumbly peg, if you please. Yes, we'll cherish that old cedar bench in the shade of the sweet gum trees, for to us it's a hallowed treasure, our treasure of memories. Well, democracy prevailed. The old men won the vote. The one-sided results were in 124 to 67. The city rebuilt, even added a water fountain. The men were elated. They were in 7th heaven. Now this happened in a small central Texas town, but it didn't go unnoticed by the nation's press. Life magazine sent a reporter and a photographer. Our battle of the benches made national news, no less. Order restored, tempers cooled, tranquility reigned. Whitney once more was a place of peace. The indicted men once again mounted their thrones. The hostility now abated began to cease. Memories fade. Old flashpoints fester and die. Generations lose their historical perspective. At some point, it seems it helps to recollect. The past is best understood, seen and reflective. The Whitney Spit and Whittle Club prevailed. Democracy won by that single feat. The bench and the water fountain and a plaque can still be found at the corner of Washington Avenue and Brazos Street. Well, I'll do one about the farm. Every morning about 6 o'clock, here'd come my daddy, and he'd say, "I'll give you one more shake. If you ain't awake, there'll be the devil to pay." Now, why he came so early, the reason I never quite got. Because without a doubt, it'd be so dark out, I couldn't find my way to the cow lot. It was time to milk. The Jersey cow just couldn't wait. Her calf was bawling and she was a-calling. However bad I felt, it just couldn't wait. So off to the barn I'd go, mumbling and mungering all the way, wondering why was sun not yet in sky. It couldn't wait till later in the day. Well, that just wasn't my daddy's way. Later wasn't a word he used. Now was his style, and he didn't accept after a while, and it didn't really matter that I felt so abused. So off to the barn I'd trudge with milk bucket in hand. I'd let the calf in, with luck then the cow would quietly stand. Then the milking would start and the real fun would begin. I'd let the calf suck, and with a little luck the milk would start to flow then. But as sure as you're born, and sure as Jesse James was a train robber, I was faced with a curse, because as that calf nursed, there's bound to be lots of slaughter. Now we mentioned the cockle burrs. No, how could have I overlooked that? They'd be all in her tail, and without fail around she'd come and hit my face splat. Well, it hurt like fire, and it made me madder than an old wet hen. I just get over the pain and sit down in the stool again and begin ready to begin again, and then sometime during the milking, you could bet sure as you were shooting. Into the bucket she'd step. There wasn't with a lot of dirt. It was polluted. There I was. Wasn't nothing I could do but reach in the bucket and take out anything not white. I know now it wasn't right, but I had to bring back milk, no doubt. Heck, it didn't seem to matter much after all. Mommy strained it through a cloth rag, so I felt with surety that we'd got rid of that impurity. Think about it now, I want to gag. Now the worst thing that could happen was for the cow to kick the bucket upside down. All the milk would spill. I had a notion to kill that hussy and buy her milk in town. That would have took care of two things of which I'd have had just about enough. I'd got rid of that chore, and I always liked bought milk more, because to tell you the truth, knowing what was in that milk, I never could drink that filthy stuff. And I didn't.
Do you have one about Halloween?
Yes, ma'am. I got one about Halloween. I got one about hay baling. Got one about the party line.
Oh, the party line.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think we need to hear the party line.
Yeah, the party line was good.
All right, let me well, I can't.
You can't find the party line?
Yeah, I got it.
Look at this old ark.
On our country party line, two longs and a short always belonged to Aunt Bess and Uncle Mark. One short and two longs, if I recollect right, was for years the ring for Reverend and Mr. White, Mrs. White. In the olden days, as the young folks say, the party line connected people like email does today. For just a little money a month, you could have your own phone in your home if you would. The party line was a source of information long before ABC, CBS, NBC covered the nation. Newspapers, if you had one, came about once a week. So the phone was about as all you had with the story you wished to leak. Now I'm told that big cities had party lines too, but not just country folks like me and you. But I suspect their reception wasn't nearly as bad as what we in the country always had, where the lines hung from posts beside gravel roads, mostly on insulators that was broke by rocks kids had throwed. And I think the statute of limitations is up on that. Wires dangling, sometimes very close to the ground. Birds sitting on the line, it seemed they'd muffle the sound. The biggest difference between us and our city relations was the role that the phone played in gathering information. Where they lived in close proximity and had other sources for news, country folks had to rely on each other for opinions and views. On important events in the county, community, and the world around, or whose kids were sick and whose stock was lost or found, on whose folks had come over for supper on the weekend, and which busybody had told stories about your best friend. Gossip, news, stories, rumors, innuendo, or just passing time was readily available anytime you wish. Didn't cost a dime. Just pick up the handset and listen to your heart's content. Didn't really matter for whom the original call was meant. Now, just because everybody knew whose phone was ringing, everybody just expected eavesdroppers to be listening into every call they made or received during the day. So they had to be very careful about what they had to say. Now, I don't recall an instance that a lawsuit ever arose from eavesdropping the party line, but I suppose there might have been occasions where somebody sued or by some less subtle way changed the listener's attitude. But just like any other contraption or device to be had, the party line might be used for good or for bad. Mothers can call their doctors when their kids are ill. Gossipers can rattle on and on till they get their fill. Suitors can moon over each other till dawn's early light. Ill-meaning tongue waggers can spin tales just for spite. Good or ill, wrong or right, help or harm, the party line can be a sore thumb or a good right arm. It's just a dumb machine. Like others, it can be abused. After all, it's got no say-so over how it's to be used. In the final analysis, party lines can be both cure and cancer. But from now on, if it ain't your ring, for heaven's sake, don't answer.
I remember that part.
Yeah, I did too.
I did too.
That's how I learned a lot of stuff.
Living in the country, that's all we had was party line.
Yeah, I know.
I knew everything was going on.
I did. We all did.
Never could
Statute of limitations was run out.
And ours was too long to be short.
Yeah. Yeah.
You knew who's.
Sure did.
I was gonna do the Halloween in Whitney. I think the statute of limitations are running out on most of this too. Somebody asked at a party the other night, "What's your favorite holiday and why?" It set me to thinking about those things, and I simply had to reply, well, now it'd be Christmas with all the little ones around to enjoy, all the grandeur of Santa and Poppy, and yes, a toy and a toy and another toy. But I reminisce with a look back to the good times when I was a teen, and said back then it'd have to be Halloween. Because in a small town like where I grew up, there wasn't a whole lot to see and do and see. So you looked for fun and excitement where you could and make it easily. So come the end of October, when the spooks and the goblins came around, we'd have lots of fun things to do in and around our little town. Outhouses were there to be toppled. Windows were there to be soaked. We would holler trick or treat, but it was for the tricks for which we hoped. Mr. Sam Cathy was our night watchman. But on Halloween, he became sort of a spy. Down at the end of Brazos Street, he'd warn us if there was anybody coming by. And anybody foolish enough to leave a car parked on a street downtown would find it the next day jacked up on a coat case where the tires would just spin round and round. Hopefully, the statute of limitations has by now run out on these misgivings, because they sure made life back then fun, exciting, and worth living. Looking back, I guess you could call our fun pretty fair, pretty petty, and by today's standards, not very wild. But it left us with a lot of good memories of growing up in Whitney on Halloween as a child. And we had a lot of fun. We put the blocking sled up on the top of the school one time with a blocking tackle. And Alvin made us bring it back down from the top of the school and blocked all the way back up to the practice field. We didn't do that anymore. Yeah. Well, I've got books here in case any of you are interested in them. All the poems in there are growing up in Whitney and my reminiscences. There's about 20 of them in there. Thank you all for listening to me. And,
Thank you for doing it. It's
these
wonderful.
over here are part of the books of poetry that I've had published over the years, and the publisher died and didn't leave anyone in charge of the publishing company, so they're all out of print. So, it's kind of a sad story. Just be glad to sit and visit with some of you. There's a lot more stories, a lot more Halloween stories to tell.
I got it.
Well, thank you all for
I wouldn't think about it.
sitting and listening.
Oh, it was very good.
It was good.
Good to see
Wonderful.
you. Good to see you.
How you been doing?
Doing good. Doing good.
And this young man here, he's been doing good too.
I'm working on it.
You doing all
I got an
right?
election to win.
I know. You winning, you're doing a lot of good.
I'm only supposed to do it. That's sure. That's I'm young. And that rascal
Our place, do you know where the tar would
place make fun of me.
Yeah. You go out to Neiman's place and then go out to Eubanks and go up there. I turn and I go down there.
Well, that's why I say
We came last Wednesday
I don't
to the
remember
high
the
school,
little club here.
and a new librarian there had me do poetry and talk to the kids all day. It did some six classes in the English classes in there. And I
Sure, in the back
talked to
room.
them growing up.
And something that we didn't own.
They didn't, none of them knew anything about it.
But
It takes a kind of audience to understand.
I've had
some
pretty
stuff
good
like
health.
this.
But I got, I tell you what, well, I punched clock for 35 years. We were 6 foot. I worked on General Hire Road. We started coming down like 6 after a year or two after I got out of school. And we started just working. Every time we come down and Dad bought some cows. I spent 30 and then shut the plant down and I took my retirement and kept my insurance and stuff and I got it all up. I kept trying to Medicare it all up. I got more insurance than most people got. Agency. I get these squares called me when they travel. I said, that's no thing. A lot of them is recording. I got Blue Cross Blue Shield. Mom and Dad sleeping. I got Medicare A, B, C, and D. And my brother slept. And they tried to sell me something. I said, he slept. Don't call me. I get one or two calls a week. Yeah. Finally, if it's even if it's very cold, I don't know. I don't answer. So I what the time it was, but I kept hearing something. Let's hear something. Got hit up on Bobcat. And I started calling. I was so scared I couldn't hardly get my voice out. I kept hollering. Mom and Dad just said, "Go to sleep, dreaming." Were you dreaming? No. The next morning we woke up and he said, "What was your problem?" I said, "There's a bobcat on the damn hood of our truck." And he said, "Oh," and I went over and I said, "See those tracks on the hood and see those nose prints?" He was trying to get me.
Trying to get, Well, it could have gotten them.
Could have gotten
if it had
them.
gotten around the other end.
Oh yeah, farming was something for a while, and then after we moved down here permanently, and my dad said, you know where Kyle Park is in Fort Worth, and he said, I want you boys, I want every rock picked up, and I want every tree taken down, and I want to thin out all this and all this stuff. So in the summertime, he would pay us. Now, since Larry was older than me, he got $200 a summer, and I only got $100.
Yeah, but you had to work just as hard.
But I had to work just hard.
Probably more, because he probably made you do that. Yeah.
You know what that is?
Yeah, it looks like something off a single tree. Or off a single tree.
Grandpa, you don't want to remember. I'm 86.
Off a bridle, I mean off a
Harness.
harness.
And I got that harness in the barn.
Yeah.
That harness, my grandpa bought in 1900.
Yeah.
And he started his farmer in the boxing
You should
Yeah, I heard made it.
You said you came there in '62.
We're always glad.
I was just
Yeah,
getting out
we keep
of
making our
Really?
birthdays. Yeah.
Went to San Antonio.
No, we just enjoy each day.
Well, I tell you
know,
what,
John and I still travel a lot.
scared
Do
to death
everything. He's
we do.
85 and I'm 84 in April.
Like that decision.
And we said we're not going to rust out. We made
And then, of course, when I got here,
rust out. We're not going to sit
so much on my first I don't know, whatever that first week, 4 weeks.
It's going to happen to all of us. We live on well, we all are. But we feel very fortunate that we've been able to do that. Yes, we've been blessed. We've been very blessed.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not from Whitney, but I'm from St. Saboteur.
And so they opted to put me back.
And we live
Yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
Miss Andrews, she was still, well,
Did you ever know that she knit a lot of
You don't hear about that very
I
often.
probably,
do you?
no, I don't know. I didn't know that. I
We've been married
wouldn't be
65
surprised.
years. They say, oh
I
my
think we
goodness.
had her in third grade.
I saw a
They're
painting
surprised,
that she
but it
painted.
does say that they
And,
we're lucky.
she's a sweet lady. Boy, she sure drank a lot. And she didn't spit it out. She just
I'd watch it.
One.
You sure it was Listerine?
I don't know. You know, Listerine ball. I don't know what. They put a lot of things in it. They put a lot of things. I don't know what she was. What color was it? Clear or that? It was clear.
And John still loves, we live in Grand.
And Miss Elmore was my principal back then. Miss Elmore. She lived right where the tennis court is. She lived right across the street from the tennis court. You got the Kennedys on one side. And she lived in the
I vaguely
across the tennis court. And she was principal there when I was there.
Was Alan Carmichael in, was he back here at the time you were in school?
Yeah, and he was ended up being the superintendent, didn't he?
He was football coach.
Football coach. Yeah. Well,
Well, Alan was our football coach.
Sure.
okay.
And then he left and went to Lancaster after our senior year. He went to Lancaster.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
really
then
nice.
he
So you
was
can
2 or 3 other
back
places, and then he
vacation.
came back to Whitney. And then after he was here, Jerry Ward was here. And Jerry was on my.
That's right. Yeah. I understand. I
Huh?
understand.
I said, don't be talking about me.
He was our all-pro fullback.
Really?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, he was a year or two ahead of me, and I wouldn't try to tackle him for anything. He was mean. He would hurt you. He didn't mind hurting sophomores. You'd go out of your way to run over us. Well, it's good to see you, sir. Tell Tony I missed him, and
I'm gonna stop back here for lunch.
okay.
See if I can get up. You got time?
No, we're gonna stay around here for a while. Probably get on
I
back.
enjoyed it.
Well, good to see you. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Well, Tony told me you'd be
You
up
all
here.
take care. Hey.
That's what I don't know when the last time I saw you.
Well, when you and Tony and I met and ate lunch down there, you need to get out there with that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Carthel.
But my memory's getting short too. So.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, John.
See you.
Good to see
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
Nice
young
to
lady.
meet you too.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir. It has. It has.
Yeah, we go
It
back.
has.
I don't know how long we've
How are
been
you
talking,
doing?
but
For your help.
back in,
Okay.
you walk across, you met somebody, you stuck your hand out, shake hands,
That's good.
and introduce yourself, your last name first. Now people, if you hit them, they probably wouldn't talk to you. I know. One time, wife and I was married a good many years, and we're not on Richmond Mall.
Yeah.
Tore down now. Yeah. And got in people everywhere, run into hairdresser. And they was talking, and I stand there, and some people come by, and I talk to them.
When did you graduate high school?
The director said, "You ready to go?" Yeah, I said, "Who are them people?"
At that time, I knew the surname. They
All of those
had
together?
Christmas decorations, so they
Brothers,
these
they all went
Christmas.
through
I used some radio and a camera. I
all
can't
that
remember now.
I went to.
And
those were
I told her, and she said, "Now,
the,
You know,
am I saying the name right?
you talk to Fist Post."
didn't go anywhere else.
The judge?
Yeah, I probably have. Well, I'm going to, babe.
Yeah.
He used
But I always remember one
Jerry
thing.
is not doing
What's that? You're my fence post, knee deep in
his
concrete.
grandpa and my
You ain't going nowhere.
going nowhere.
And I told her before we got married,
I've seen different
I
words.
promised her
and
quit drinking,
then I'll
save
ask
my money.
Rhonda, and she'll say,
Promised her
"No,
boots,
that's not
saddle,
the
silver,
same."
fur, diamond ring, mink, stolen, fur coats, nice clothes, nice home, nice car. She said, that makes me want you to marry right now, but people don't, I said,
Or at least
this,
we
people,
were
this
before
out.
COVID, you know. or
Never was broke since the day after I quit drinking.
none better than Pam.
That's 27 years
I
old.
said, we need to get a day when both of them are here.
I bought her.
I said, because I'm not from here, but I've learned a lot.
The closet's still full
It's,
of
it's, you know,
Carthos, mother used to teach.
It's coming July the
No, I
January.
never did run very fast. Because Alvin was always reminding me, you're little and you make up
It's hard too.
slow.
I don't see how these people.
You know,
Oh, John, they're so much behind.
I never got tired of it. Never got tired of it. Never got too much.
I knew the awards mom.
And we talked about
see,
like
there's
get
a
married.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not married to bitch, drive, raise hell. I got that. Break you over the cold. I said, we got married 15th of July, 67, and that took me after
it's nice when you see all the
68th
families.
birthday. So that's the anniversary.
It's so good to see everybody coming in.
we just got to be really good friends. We played golf.
I talked to
John said, that's the way I looked up at Charles.
Really?
That's
pretty good. I never did take up golf. I never did. I don't know why.
But anyway,
You're blessed.
Living at Cranberry.
So we just
well, I eventually come down there, but I knew something wrong. She come down to submission, and she was this type of lady, and when I buried her, she was just
I have. Well, good. I bet so. I think Cranberry has just.
But anyway, we've been married maybe 6 months, and I never
Anytime you go, you just
hardly
hardly get
never
by.
got always.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable because we've been there 20 years.
Finally, she said one time, we were married about 6, 4 about the first thing I home for her. She said,
There's our 3 daughters.
you still act like you're
Well.
home. Damn right, I got home to that 50 more years.
I tell you what, they got a lot of
6 months, 3 days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you'd have to have a day to come in. That's right, to see it all.
Anyway,
I was gonna right with me for it. But you never have called up in DNA. You're getting there.
tell me about it.
Now,
You see all these gray hairs? This was being mayor just for 6 months.
where was Harold Lehman
I can't believe
in the
now they're rewriting all these
Trail
words.
Nigger?
One author.
Lehman was, well, he was before Abe, wasn't it? Yeah, he was before Abe. So Abe, I think I was working for Hillsborough when Abe was mayor. And then Lehman kept it for years.
Yeah.
And that was his last time. I can't remember what that'd be kind of nice too for us to have all the mayors that come from Whitney, but I don't know if we could come across with all those.
Well, I know that Harold's fifth now.
And then
Yeah.
Then Mr. Peacock.
Yeah, and Mr. Peacock did it. He did it for, I don't remember, that he was before, when
And Gwen Evans.
yeah, but Peacock, was he after Abe? No? Was he?
I think so.
Okay. I can't have
Or maybe before, I don't remember.
yeah.
Well, you know, the Lehman farm, we passed by the Lehman farm going to our place.
Right.
And Harold worked for my dad at the lumber yard quite a bit.
Really?
And I was shocked when I heard that Harold was mayor. I wouldn't tell all the things I knew about Harold. But, let's just say
I tell you what we do.
I was shocked when I found out that he was.
Carpel,
There's some of us that's been here forever. When we go down here to the post office, it's a nightmare. And we always say to them, God, I wish Papa was here. And I know they are so sick of hearing that. You need to make sure you go in there and introduce yourself.
You remember John and Rose Hardison?
Yes.
They were there kind of before you was.
They both worked in the post office.
Yeah, both.
You know,
He was an
I said work. They both came. They came to work. Not paid for it.
He delivered the mail many a year.
Yeah.
Now, where was the post office before it was here?
He told us.
I'm just trying to remember.
You remember where there's a Carol had a filling station down there?
Yeah.
And somebody else had, there's two filling stations.
Yeah, across the
And they
region.
can build it right in there.
Okay.
That's kind of where the old library is.
Yeah. They'd be next to the police station.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it.
Things have changed.
I ran into somebody the other day that was a family member of the guy that had the filling station.
Howard Odom.
Howard Odom.
Yeah, right over here.
Howard Odom. Howard Odom.
He wound up with this thing.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, Howard had that station right there on the corner.
Yeah.
And,
He caught me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's up for sale.
Yeah. He caught him.
Well, I tell you what, when I worked
Boys,
there,
there used to be an undertaker in Cliff at the White.
Oh, yeah, Odom? Yes.
Eddie.
Yes, he did. He still is, yeah.
I mean, I got $5 a day.
My
and he
brother
ain't tired
went to
all day
school
long.
with him.
That was big money back then.
Carthos has.
He paid pretty good. I remember doing that. That's where I learned a lot of stuff. Learned how to fix tires.
One evening, me and I was little, but me and my brother and Freddie Odom were, I think Odom's already closed, but we was sitting out there breezing, you know.
Yeah.
An old boy come by and hot rodded his old car and kind of fishtail. Old Freddie Odom said, "Go on, boy, we got a box that'll hold you."
I used to go see Mr. Odom. You know, he lived at that really nice White House on Trinity Street.
Yeah.
And he'd be out every time. If I go by there, I was driving a motorcycle back then. I was a kid, and I worked for him one summer. And but I always stop off there, and we'd sit there, and he could tell stories, and I would sit there and listen to those stories for 2 hours, and then he'd get Mama calling for dinner, and he'd say, well, "I gotta go." I said, "Well, I might come back tomorrow," but I'd sit here and sit out here on the board.
When he was over here, my husband, Mike Watts, worked for him. And Mike was in college, and he was driving back towards Tarleton. Well, I could never find a good place to live in Whitney. I was constantly moving. And I got where I wouldn't even tell Mike if I was going to do it. I'd just say, yeah, we'll take that and plan on moving. So one day, Mike came in from college and stopped to go to work. When he got out of the car, Howard said, "Mike, I think I saw your recliner going down the road." Sure enough, I had moved him.
You moved him.
He didn't know where he was going.
That's hilarious. But I remember going up to Odom when I was a teenager. They put me in $1 worth of gas.
Yeah, I know.
I gotta go somewhere and
This
sit
is like
down.
25 cents a gallon.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Filling station.
You want to get back there, you talk about old Walter and Lottie.
After we
Yeah.
back from Mountain Springs or something, good park
It's good
there
to
on
see you. It's good to
Howard's
meet you.
lot there, and
Take it easy.
turn our radios up
Yeah.
and listen
Doing a
to
good
Yeah.
job. I just had a meeting.
whatever that station was out of
And I still want to get around.
Yeah.
listen to 50s music.
Yeah.
50s music.
Yeah. Oh,
I
that's
tell you,
fun.
Good times.
The other Pelham.
That sucks. That our opponent, she doesn't even
Robert, I mentioned Robert in one of my poems.
You got that? Yeah.
Robert was the dearest thing I had in brother.
Start finding some place to put some.
We spent a lot of time together. Johnny and Caroline still live here, and his,
You got anybody
Kenneth still lives here.
write their names down.
One of them passed away last year.
When can you start putting them out?
Well, I got the,
Get it on.
I forgot, 19, the same one they used in 2019, and I
Robert
forgot
was
that
from
you
August
have to
to
put that
November.
political advertising paper. So I ordered some, that should be in, and I'll probably have them.
Johnny, he was my
The main thing is to get them out right before they voted. We got some.
Okay, we got time.
I worked with him.
And then,
Yeah.
Pam's gonna handle them.
I get juice left. Oh, yeah. So you're-
Me too.
Well, you got a Brooks's grocery store?
Yeah.
And then I set up a campaign account.
Her and her,
So if anybody wants
Okay.
to.
she's married
Okay, I'll
to
pass that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
I think that this.
Last marriage, yeah.
This is really gonna be bad.
It
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
Council's not gonna have a city administrator.
Wow.
Yeah, she,
I don't know what the heck they're doing.
yeah, her
Exactly.
first
She probably don't
husband,
even know what a
my
resolution
daddy's
is unless it's right one.
brother, daddy's youngest
So
You're
brother.
right.
It scares me.
He died
You are right.
at 4